Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion, and things are moving right along. Happy Friday to you. Hope you're doing well today. I see Scott, Breeze, TBD2, also Napalm, and President Not Sure. Hi, welcome in. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Hope your week went well and that your weekend will start off wonderfully. Today on our channel is Community Day. Yatta! And what Community Day means around these parts is that I open up the Discord voice channel for anyone who is interested in having a conversation about technology or other things related to the stream's content. You can hop into a Discord voice channel, type !waiting in chat to let me know that you're in a waiting room or any of the voice channels really, and then I'll pull you into the stream room. Just know that when you do come into the stream room, your voice will be carried over onto the stream, and I do post my VODs to YouTube forever and ever and ever and ever. So yeah, so if you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to use the voice channel in order to participate in Community Day. You can just chat, or you can just send me energy. Just be like, I want you to answer this question, and then focus really hard, and then I will talk about that topic. But speaking of topics, I do have a topic for today. If no one else does bring up a topic, I will give people time to join if they want to join. Yeah, but I have something that I'd be interested in knowing your opinions about. I would prefer to just ask you guys about your opinions, because I do have opinions about it too, which is why I would bring it up. But until then, unless and until anyone wants to join, I will be working on the bot remake, because that's what Fridays are for. Yep. Which I have done very little on. But yeah, so good day again, TBD. Hello, Scott. I'm waving my phone around, and Irish John is like, what if your mama calls? What if you dox them? You should be more responsible with that. I don't even know why I picked up my phone. I have nothing on my phone that I need right now. But yeah, hello, Mojo. It's Friday. Mojo Jojo. Read just like that. Okay, so I am going to figure out where we are with the bot. There's bunches of changes. Does it build? Because if it builds, I'm just going to push these changes so that they aren't just pending anymore. Outboot. No! Oh, wait, that's... Why are you erroring when trying to get packages from my NuGet feed? I'm authenticated. I'm logged in. It wants all of my credentials again. Right, because this is the Visual Studio community. I do often have issues with Visual Studio community connecting to my private NuGet feeds. Weird. Send me a notification. I approve the notification. But yes, how are all of you wonderful people? So glad to see you today. I really, really, really wish the best for all of you on this wonderful Friday. It's going to be a great day. I've been spending a lot of time researching ArcMap and ArcGIS. And I just started 2 days ago after I published those filters. So, yeah. Those filters. The filter feature in the application that I was working on for pretty much the whole entirety of last month. Oh, it was so... I was really glad to get it stabilized, working cleanly, with hopefully very few works. I know that it works, 100% works. I just hope that there aren't UI quirks that the users have to work around. I really, really don't like making people have to do workarounds. All right. Napalm said, I finished my Kraken D component last night. Now that I punted on SSL until Microsoft/Aspire figures that out. Isn't it nice though? I mean, you're like, there's this one thing that is not documented well that just isn't working the way that I think is working. There has to be something out there, and then you search and search and search, and then you find out, nope, that is, there's nothing. It's for real nothing. Bye. And then when you finally drop that thing, liar, when you finally drop that thing, you make progress like nothing. Those aren't the best viewers. They're already here. That's true, Violet Dragon. So true. Can I build yet? Did all of my credentials get renewed? No. Oh, this is my regular user credential. Okay, I can do that. Send me a notification. Why did you send my notification to this? It's weird. Like all of my Microsoft Authenticator stuff is on my phone, are on my phone. But I just set up a new device and I had to have the authenticator on that device as well, but it's defaulting over to that device sometimes. Okay, .NET Nuka add source credentials, etc. in command. Yep, and I did that, and I use a pat for it. But it's still, technical terms here, it still wigs out at me. Oh my gosh. And Visual Studio is not authenticating my profile. So like the thing that has been most reliable is when I use my login credentials. So I have like 4 accounts logged in Visual Studio, but now it just keeps saying re-enter your credentials. Oh, cool. I think that was successful, so I'm going to bring this back over. Is it 6 p.m. yet, says TBD? Dude, don't show them that I have 8,000 windows open. Oh my gosh. Why does this say it's .NET 6? Oh, because that's the component library. We'll fix all the things here shortly. But first, let's look at this, and then I'll catch up in chat because I keep interrupting myself, and I do apologize for that. That's probably annoying. I'll do my best to not interrupt my conversation or ideas or thoughts or anything like that. Let's go here first. Okay, platform service base is not an interface, so we can't inherit from that, obviously. Are you... Oh, great. Yeah, so this is the thing where I tend to like to use a combination of both interfaces and abstract classes because I like to have my Discord bot service, my Twitch bot service be interfaces so that I can just as easily switch it out. But I guess the smarter thing to do is just pick one. And since I am using a base class here to provide base implementation of stuff that's going to be shared and pretty consistent throughout them, I'm just going to turn these two into abstract classes as well. That way, when I'm ready to do testing on it, which I should start now, I will just be able to swap them out. Yeah, that's what I usually do, Scott. But it doesn't, it makes sense to me to do that. But at the same time, you really do only need one. You don't need both the interface and the abstract class unless something else is going to be implementing the interface separate from the abstract class. But in most of my cases, I am using the base class and inheriting the base class, or implementing the base class in other concrete objects. But yeah, I'm going to try to re-chat now. Meow. Meow. I feel like every day is community day here, says Scott, and that is true. I do spend a lot of time just talking with you guys, but I enjoy it. I hope you do too. President Not Sure is here early. Hello, hello, says Napalm. And I never got notifications for some reason, says President Not Sure. I recently went through all of the Twitch channels that I am, is it called subscribe on Twitch? That I am following on Twitch, and decided whether or not I wanted notifications, and they seem to be more consistent now that I have gone through them all again recently and made the decision to turn notifications on or off. So maybe that'll get your notifications kickstarted again in a more consistent way if you go through them and either toggle them for the ones that you want on, turn them off and then back on, or just turn off the ones that you don't want. And then TBD said, good day once more, sir. Mojo's here. Napalm said I finished my Kraken thing. And then I talked about Nougat. You should always consider publishing to Nougat if it's a library that you believe is helpful. And that's segueing pretty close into the topic I'd like to bring up if no one else brings up any other topics today. But I'll wait. I'm excited to talk about it. That's all. Scott said .NET Nougat add source credentials. Yep. Never had Nougat source issues after that. I certainly have, but that does seem to be more reliable as well. The issue is that I tend to use PATs when I do that, and PATs, I try to stick with the expiry on them of no more than, and this is even a stretch, but no more than a year. But like in most organizations and most companies, it's like 60 to 90 days for PATs, and then you have to renew them, and you have to redo all of your NuGet ad source stuff. Mojo said, good, I'm shipping my work Surface laptop to the new sales guy and replacing it with a beefy ThinkPad. Yeah, I saw you post in TBD's, speaking of TBD, he streamed earlier, in TBD's Discord that you are kind of without a workstation and you're trying to figure out what to do with your time. And there is always a good time for researching interesting technologies that you want to learn. So that was a comment that TBD made on his stream, that he wants to get better at the technologies he's using that he's not super comfortable or confident in. And here to that. He wasn't saying that he's bad at software development. He's just saying he wants to learn more about those. And then Violet Dragon came in. Napalm says, I was shocked at how delightfully easy Aspire components from containers were. Also, added Keycloak for auth again. Where did that go? I totally missed it. Oh, added Keycloak for auth. Again, delightfully easy. That's so good to hear. You don't hear that very often, and it's nice to hear someone talking about that. That's something that they wanted to do, was actually intuitive or easy and just worked. What else happened? What else happened? Oh, my YouTube video posted, and I haven't updated the anything for it. So let me do that real quick. This thumbnail. Delete. Project 1. Save. Show more. No, it's not intended for children, and no, it is not AI generated stuff inside. Or the ones that they're specifically asking about, I should say, because Copilot is obviously being used. This was recorded on Wednesday. And software and game dev. Science and technology is what I mean, because there is no software and game dev in YouTube's. Could be education, I guess. Could be podcasts, like I said earlier. I do so much chatting with you guys and so little coding. Okay. 8,000 Windows, lightweight. Certainly lightweight. Oh, I really appreciate the model to share config values. So much less copying and pasting into config. True. I do like that as well, Napalm. TBD said 8,000 Windows, lightweight. And then Scott said, I have iBase service and iBase repository and also abstract implementation. So that's definitely a conversation topic that we could have too, is interfaces and abstract classes, interfaces or abstract classes. Do you prefer one to the other, etc.? But that's still not the topic I want to talk about. TBD said, ugh, you touch a piece of code that is possibly adjacent to a thing that's kind of like something else, and you're the first person they blame for new problems appearing. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, I do not miss those days. Not one bit. Now, if something breaks, I know it was me. Napalm says, interfaces are to avoid diamond inheritance problem when you need type structure variations. Yes. And I get that. And I agree with it. Oh, that's a cool little gummy bear looking thing. Rainbow gummy bear, Scott. President Not Sure said just toggled it. We'll see what happens. Well, I'll stop my stream and then restart it and we can find out. No, I'm not going to do that. Napalm said to Mojo, and I drink the Aspire Kool-Aid by the gallon. Oh, and I finally got there. So TBD is waiting. Are you ready still? I'm pulling you in 5, 14, 3, 6, 0. Hello.
Hello.
Nice. Good mic check.
How's it going?
Amazingly. How's it going with you?
It's halfway through Friday.
I want time to, like, typically when I'm in the middle of a workday, I want time to slow down because there's so much to do, so much I want to do.
I go fast enough for me. I said the adjacent problem. I've been working on a piece of code for the last 9 months almost, and they've never released it because it's quite major to the system, and it's just about to get put out there. And one of the things that's kind of related went wrong first thing this morning, and it's immediately, have you changed any of this? Is this anything related to what you've deployed, etc.? Like, no. And then
didn't touch
someone else, and basically it's trying to geocode bad addresses. Like, it's trying to geocode comma, right? And then one of the PMs jumps in and goes, This could be related to our location changes. Yeah, that sounds kind of more related than this other job that I wasn't doing. Like, yeah, that's location changes. Yeah.
Get in there before TBD talks bad about Aspire.
I won't talk bad about Aspire.
Yeah,
There's
definitely
nothing
to
wrong
each
with
their
it.
own. Yeah. Now
I'm
that your
just
microphone is properly leveled, I need to level you in Discord.
gotcha.
Because I had you close to 200% this time.
Oh. I hate sound audio. It's just a mess all the time.
I don't mind it.
You never get it tuned in right.
Yeah.
It's either quiet in one place and loud in another place.
But I'm okay with constantly adjusting.
Yeah.
So, do you have any particular topics or conversation pieces you would like to bring up?
No, I just thought I'd come and hang out and chat for a while.
Here for the crack.
Because I'm pretty much guaranteed to be called into a meeting if I decide to do this. Because I missed last Friday. Because I was in 7 hours straight meeting.
That was crazy sounding. Hi, Shai. It's been a long time. Is it possible you remember me? I remember your username-ish, but let's see if I actually made a note. Because that's how I remember people better. Copy. But I do have a... What? There's a right-click... Whoa. That's a very, very odd context menu that pops up. Copy. Pasta. Why isn't it copying? Shyam Guruna. Yes, we met in 2022, February 16th to be exact. That's all the information that I have about you. Mojo says, I'll join once I get back to my desk at home. Gotta configure these laptops. Do your best. Get 100 on your test. So then, TBD, something came up on Wednesday that I don't know if you heard, but Gilgamesh was joking about taking the open source application that we've been working on Stream, which by the way is here, project, and just joking about, are you going to market this? Can I market it? Kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like, that made me start thinking about the whole concept of IP in our industry. Man, I had a good way to pose the question, but I would like to know your opinions on the importance of, one, attributing,
right,
and two, having your name on the things that you create.
I mean, I think that's been a mess for many years. I remember when they first started talking about software patents, right? And then kind of open source came around as a more prominent concept. And the patents conversation kind of fell away a little bit. I mean, if I can move other people forward with my contributions to software in general, like some of my core libraries for Liquid Sky, right? The Kafka pieces, particularly. If that can help someone accelerate their usage of Kafka and standardize it, then I think that's a helpful thing. Do I need attribution there? No, I don't think so. Because I think that with open source, the idea is that the licensing is set up in such a way that if they take that software and go to use it, then they are bound to follow the license. But sorry, I'm getting pinged now. It started.
No, it's really good response. There's so much I want to follow up with in your response.
Yeah,
and anyone else in chat, by the way, if you do have a response to this, please feel free to type it out because I'm really interested.
I think if you're using open source software, you're kind of morally bound to contributing to that component. If you feel that it has problems or it's missing things or whatever, I think you owe it to the creator and yourselves to kind of play the game. I think open source is we take a lot of open source. We don't often contribute back
Right.
to open source. I personally don't. I try to. I love to, but I'm not going to pick up Mediator and start to be, oh well, I'm opinionated about this. It's solving my problems. But I think it could be tweaked here or tweaked there. I don't start passing my opinions on how Mediator should be used.
Right.
But I'm using that library, and I'm greatly benefiting from that library. Right, I don't have to write all that myself. That being said, where would attribution fit in there? Like if I wanted to provide attribution to all the people that the source, the projects I've used, such as mass transit, such as Mediator, such as RabbitMQ and stuff like that. Where does it belong, and how does it benefit anybody?
Right.
I think if someone's going to take your project and use it, then definitely it should be respected. I don't know, if you put something out there as open source.
I see. This is why I love that you're the one that's responding to this right now, because we have a lot of the same mental processes, and you're kind of going in the same direction I was. So you're pretty much voicing my opinion on it. So please continue.
I was thinking about, okay, Liquid Sky, right? I haven't open sourced it. I do intend to make it a product. If I open source it, then I open it up for everyone else's opinions on how it should work. I open it up to design challenges, right? I've been sharing a little bit with Mojo. Mojo and I have been working together a little bit, and I've kind of, shared it with him a little bit and kind of talked about some stuff. But even just doing that, he has opinions on how software should work versus me, right? So when you open source something, if someone takes it, it's not just yours anymore. It's the I'm trying to figure out how to word it well enough. Like, you lose control, and that's kind of why I haven't decided to, because I could open source Liquid Sky now, right? And no one would have a clue what's going on. Right? It's a massive project to just get running, and you wouldn't know what direction I was heading in. There's nothing like that. So you could take it and try and adapt it or change it, but would I want crediting at that point if you took it and did that? How much work
do you have an answer for that? Because that would be my follow-up question, or one of them at least.
Like, I'm trying to think from which perspectives I care most. If someone took Liquid Sky and made a product out of it, would I want attribution? Absolutely. I think I would, because I put in all the core work, right? Maybe that opens up.
I need to write that down, because that's
consultancy roles. Consultancy roles, and because I know that Jimmy Bogart does a lot of consultancy based upon things like Automapper and Mediator, right? Like, he's done a lot because he's built products on top of those things, and I know he's done a lot of consulting. I know he's a consultant in general, but I know he's done, he's been brought in specifically because of that core library. And Service Bus, we brought in Udi Dahan, who's the creator of Service Bus, right, as a consultant at one of my previous companies. And Service Bus was open source, but we still brought that person as a consultant because they're the expert on that thing.
So along those lines, it sounds like you're distinguishing open source projects created during consulting time or just paid time in general versus stuff that's done as like passion projects.
Yeah, and I think there's again things like the Kafka library stuff that I did, right? The goal there would be to help everybody else be able to run Kafka without having to deal with all the intricacies of dealing with Kafka, like the setup. I know it's an abstraction on top of an abstraction, but it keeps it moves it further forward, right? It keeps it cleaner and people can use it. That I would expect, if people want to take it and use it, they can do. They can adapt it, they can fork it, they can change it for whatever want. I mean, the way that GitHub works, it kind of goes with the you understand that it's a fork of a project, right? Generally. But the goal there would be to help the community, not just to help myself. I that sort of library, I'm happy to open source because I feel that is, if that moves people forward with their understanding of a platform and that platform gets better take up because of what I've done, then that's great. I don't mind. Like, I don't care about attribution necessarily there. If it was something like the Liquid Sky and so on, and I made it as a core platform rather than an actual specific product, then yeah, heck yeah, I'd want attribution. I'd want so.
Well, okay. So now that you're saying that, here's a contrived scenario, and it's pretty much what you just said, but in, I don't know, in hypothetical terms. Let's say that you created code or authored code for a system, and you have open sourced it because your intent, and it sounds like intent has a lot to do with your idea on whether open source should be attributed or protected or whatever, especially since we have licensing and all that. But you have this code, you put it out there, you open source Liquid Sky, for example. Someone takes that and claims it as their own. What does that make you feel, and why?
They take it and claim it as their own.
Yeah. Because you open sourced it and you said it's free use, anyone can use it, implement it, integrate it into your stuff, whatever.
I mean, I mean, I've kind of gone through this conversation a few times. Like, as developers, I think we all do enjoy that feeling of seeing someone use our stuff, and it's kind of rewarding, and it seems a little bit
I can't say all, or I can't agree to all, of course, because I typically don't like to talk in absolutes.
But I think
but I know what you mean still.
Yeah, I think in general, most developers I've met, let's go with that one, do get a sense of satisfaction from delivering something and seeing someone able to use that thing and work with it. There's a certain reward there, right?
Right.
Gratification. There we go. Gratification is probably a better word. So how, if I was to see my stuff be taken and used as somebody else's and sold off as somebody else's, I'd be frustrated. I think it does open up the question of what legal recourse do we have, and I think that's where software patents, coming back around on that one, I think that's why there was a big discussion about that many years ago, being able to patent software, which is a dangerous thing. I think, if you can say, hey, I patent the mediator pattern, what? Really? So someone actually, because the number of times you probably accidentally implement a pattern or a design just because it feels right is more than most people would realize, and I think then you'd run the risk of software patents becoming a real nightmare.
Absolutely.
But I think if this was a larger problem, I think platforms like GitHub would have a responsibility to kind of put in some kind of tracking to understand if someone had taken that code and it had a source to try and back up. Like, it'd be nice to know GitHub would support an individual if their stuff had been stolen and taken.
Sorry, came in late, didn't hear the precursor to the.
It's essentially just talking about attribution and open source, and like the part of the question that TBD just answered was, if someone had taken your open source project that you have out there in GitHub and you're like, it is free for use, you can integrate this into your application, and someone else took it and made a product and claimed it as their own original, then how would that make you feel? But the second part of that is why. So he did say that he would be frustrated by it. So if you want to answer the same question so far, and then we can get to the whys.
Well, the only thing I don't have feelings on how I feel per se. Mostly because I'm just like very strong. I'm pro like copyleft. However, on the note of GitHub, I don't know if GitHub does it. I do know that when I was interning at Red Hat, I learned that they do offer services for non-Red Hat products that are open source. So essentially, they're a defender of open source, whether it's their product or not. Now, how often do they do it? I don't have these answers. But I do know that to some extent, they do have their legal team help non-Red Hat open source products.
Okay. And
If that
Napalm,
helps, TBD.
do you have any thoughts on this, Napalm?
Sorry, I kind of missed the beginning of that conversation. Getting
For
in
the
for the
third
lounge
time.
and everything.
Oh my gosh, I'm kidding. It's essentially a conversation about if you voluntarily open sourced something and you said you can use this, feel free to add it into your thing. You even have licenses and stuff if you want, but let's ignore that licenses mean anything for now. The question is if someone else took that, made a product around it, or even just took it as is and claimed it as their own original idea, how would that make you feel? And then the second part that will go around to everyone is
I'm
why.
human, so I'm gonna be irritated, obviously, but kind of the nature of the game in a lot of ways too.
Hearing that term, the game. So then we'll go back to TBD because he gave us a in-depth answer because I was targeting Liquid Sky since he has something that could be open sourced. Why the frustration of someone not crediting you for it? You did touch on it, but if you want to elaborate.
It does come back to where does it matter, right? Thinking about that, like if someone took my product and made it their own, they added all the things on and they made it work, etc. Would I want crediting? Potentially not, because their code could be terrible. I don't want to be associated with that, right? But where does it actually matter? Does it matter if they take it and they form a company around it? Does it matter to anybody that I originally wrote the basics and they carried it on? Linus Torvalds, I mean, I'm not comparing myself here, I'm just saying, like, Linus Torvalds is widely credited as being the guy that created Linux, but in the years since, there's a whole lot of contribution in there. There's a whole ecosystem that's built around this platform, right? He still gains the credit historically, but it's like there's so much work gone into it, the other companies, the other people. And again, I'm not trying to compare myself to someone like that, but does it matter to me if someone takes Liquid Sky? I'm not creating a Linux. I'm not creating a platform for the better good of mankind or anything, right? Or for anti-competitive reasons against Microsoft and Apple. But I don't know. I'm rethinking it a little bit in terms of where does it matter to me. It would matter if I'd written a core platform and someone wanted help with it, right? That I wasn't Whoops.
Distracted by notifications.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to consider, like,
I mean, I think it comes down to if you're going to want that credit, then you should probably use a license to ideally force the desire for that credit.
Okay.
If you're using MIT and throwing it out there, you know the consequences. I mean, it's just the Wild West. Do what you want.
Yeah, if I open source Liquid Sky, it would definitely be I'd have to look deeply into the licensing, right, of that, because there's no way I would want someone to take it and pass it off straight as their own. purely because of the amount of effort I've put into it.
Purely
I mean,
because of the
that
amount of
said-
effort. Let me keep that in mind.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add, that said, I mean, not quite the scale of like a system and a company being built around something that I built, but it was still a little situation I found myself in. A couple years back, I made a contribution to the .NET SDK for basically it was around distributed caching and stuff. Long story short, nothing crazy or whatever, but Microsoft usually does a pretty good job of when you make a contribution like that, putting a simple like footnote into a site like, hey, thanks to all these people that did stuff this month or whatever. Long story short, Microsoft guy did something weird with my pull request and ended up forking it himself. And I mean, they merged my change request into the SDK, but I didn't get proper credit for it. So that was kind of a kick, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is a benefit when it's something like that. When it's a Microsoft SDK, that's a resume builder.
Right.
To have that link, that accreditation, that is a resume builder. So from that respect, if I was going looking for a company and someone had built off Liquid Sky and I'd stopped development of it myself, but I'd given that source away essentially by allowing it out into the world and someone built a product, then having an attribution there would definitely help, because it would, from a resume perspective, it would definitely look solid.
Yeah, I mean, I can still point to all the, if assuming it hasn't gotten archived or anything, the issues and merge requests and stuff that were all ultimately linked to this thing, but it still would have been nice to have gotten the proper nod at the end of the month, like, hey,
being a
thanks to these
footnote.
people.
Being a footnote on an official Microsoft
Right.
release document is quite an attribution, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I suppose from that respect, yeah, absolutely, the attribution
So-
would matter.
I do want to play off of that. So Napalm was talking about, oh geez, Napalm was talking about the blow to the ego and resume building. Even reputation is a big part of it. And then TBD, you said that like you can, or you were the one that actually brought up resume builder, but you can pretty much take that with you and say, here is the experience I have. But what if you could claim that I contributed to this thing as part of your, this is why you should hire me, or this is why you should use me as your consultant, software developer, whatever your goals are there. And then just be able to prove that you have that skill. So not only say, I contributed to this thing, I helped build this thing, but I didn't get credited for it. Is that really such a hindrance for getting a position? So either of you, and 8-bits, if you could explain why you would be upset. That's the main thing that I want, is the why would you be upset if someone else took credit for your stuff that you authored, other than I'm human, we are that way.
I was about to say it's kind of a human condition, right?
It is, but why don't I
we
feel
do not
it
like having.
is the question.
Why don't you feel it?
Yeah.
Clearly you're not human, right? So
because like, okay,
Have you been
first I
tested
want to
for robot?
hear first I want to hear your response on the ego trip, or not trip, the ego boost that you get, and then is it actually a hindrance to being able to be employable or to get selected for a contract or whatever? If someone else took something that you put out there, you have it on GitHub, you have your license on there, they still took it, they're claiming it as their own, but you're trying to use that as, I built this system, I have the skills, and the potential employer or business partner or whatever is going to be like, well, no, this person made that. So is that really detrimental to building your relationship with your partner, the business, whatever it is? Am I making sense with that question?
Yeah, so if I just say, I contributed to a platform and I have nothing to back it up that's come from that other source, it could hurt. There's that doubt. right? Does the company believe that I'm just like, because okay, I contribute. One thing I've contributed to open source this year is I contributed to I updated the Couchbase demo app to .NET 8. I got it all running on .NET 8. Changed out that because they'd not updated it in several versions. I updated it and released it, and did a PR, and it was accepted and merged. Right. That's just helping everybody else that comes after me. I don't mind that. I don't want I don't want attribution for that. But if I did something more major, let's say I contributed like a Napalm, I contributed to the .NET SDK. That is I could say it, but if there's no evidence of it, then okay, yeah, just making stuff up. You know, people like to be what's the word? I'll go with over exaggerate or
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you're encouraged by that with the resume. When you're encouraged to boost, like you're encouraged to show numbers if you can on a resume, right? You're encouraged to show, oh, I did this and contributed this, and you're not encouraged to say we. You're encouraged to say I. So if you can't point to something and you're saying all these things, all these claims, then that interview might be a lot harder. If you can point to something and say, there's the accreditation, there's my name, etc. And it's part of the reason that I don't hide my name on the internet is because I believe it's all professional component. But if it's for, like, again, coming back to the Kafka library stuff, if it's for the good of other developers, if it's for helping people move forward, I like that contribution. I don't care if that's credited, because I think that sort of stuff, whether you believe in karma or not, I think that contribution, helping other people along, is something that I think we all have a kind of responsibility to do. And that's why I kind of believe in apprenticeship, because I think that building other people up is a good part of what we do. So I'm kind of, if it's a commercial opportunity that someone runs off with and takes and never credits me or even tries to do that, then I'm going to be extremely upset. If I've let the licensing go, then I have to accept that, right? If I put a silly license on it that allows them to just take it and run with it, then that's my fault. The fault on me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you would have a license on there that does restrict the use and does require attribution if it is used. And
if I open source Liquid Sky, yes,
Yeah.
you best know that it's coming with some.
So of
the strictest
course,
license.
the whole point, or the whole line of questioning, is leading towards the why do we want our names on stuff, and I'm getting a lot of really interesting conversation from you guys where it's like it affects your future. It's kind of what it's breaking down to, or a lot of it seems to be pointing to that. If you don't get attributed for the work that you have done, you can't prove that you are the one that did it if someone else markets it as their own thing and says, I need attribution for it. So it sounds like a lot of the motivation is behind, I put a lot of work into this, therefore I should get credit for it, and I want it to benefit me when I'm trying to pursue other things. So let me read out 8-Bit's reasoning for his response. And his response was just along the lines of, I would be upset if someone took it, didn't credit anyone, and just made it their own. So he says, this is a real situation I've seen in the past at a studio I won't disclose. Someone tried to use code from a small open source repo during a hiring application. That person got chose over other candidates, me being one of those candidates. They got found out, but by the time the studio reached out to offer other devs the job instead of the one who took the code, I already had a new job, but it was lower pay and less benefits, kind of screwed me over. To me, an issue of not being professional. It is okay to use open source code, but people have abused that in the past for job applications, making the people who really do deserve the job does not get it. Oh, making it to where they can't get the job, which hurts other devs' futures. So it is a matter of the integrity of other people trying to use that and not screwing other people over. is what I'm getting from that one. And I'm oversimplifying your responses because this is how I don't mean to diminish them. They definitely are important points.
I mean, outside of like the gradation for finding jobs and stuff, just kind of taking this in a similar direction. I had another situation in my career where I actually came up with the design for, so this was kind of before at least this company had adopted cloud and people were getting into a habit of doing these things on the regular as far as doing integration tests and unit tests and things like that. Long story short, they used to validate their systems like every weekend when they would apply patches, and somebody'd have to be on and, basically hit the database, run a SQL statement. Is it up? Hit a website. Is it up? That kind of thing. I wrote a system to automate that, and it was a proof of concept type application. Went into a meeting with somebody from the operations side of the thing and said, see, you don't need like a person to do this. You can just run this tool, and it was extensible, and it was a good idea, right? Saves a lot of time and effort. Long story short, a month later, I come into a town hall meeting with the company, and they're presenting the idea as their own effectively, and built a system to like compete with mine. And long story short, it basically ticked me off, obviously, but I got the thing from my manager, well, it's your idea, and kind of snickered and laughed and walked away. And well, needless to say, I wasn't with that company much longer.
Yeah. I can imagine. So now that you bring that up, we have been doing this in the context of open source, but now we've kind of touched on the underlying concept of IP, and so the valuation and importance of an IP can only be maintained if there is some kind of trail that says who created this, right? Is that fair to say?
I think it's important, sure.
But the whole point of nope. How do I ask that as a question? Because again, I have a lot of opinions on, I guess it's more like gripes about how humanity currently works and how it could be improved and what you and I could do today to make that better. But one of the things about IP is the fact that nope, I can't go there.
Blue screen.
Not blue screen, just firewall stuff. Yeah. Port is blocked. Gosh, honestly, if someone uses open source projects for their job applications and they are open that they used an open source repo, I personally will consider them more as a higher candidate. Using tools, packages, and IDEs are all part of development. Using tools made by others is something we do every day. We use Visual Studio, Unity, Blazor, and even .NET. True.
So
I'm trying to... Oh, go ahead. Yes.
So I was figuring if I talked, then maybe yeah. In my past job, right, I worked on trying to tidy up our framework and build out a new platform, etc. And I wrote what, I've told it many times on stream, but I wrote what was essentially Mediator. And I didn't realize it was Mediator because I'm not a big pattern studier. I don't go off and think, oh, how can I implement this pattern? I think, how can I solve this problem? And if the pattern arises, it does. So I basically wrote Mediator. And we used it, and it worked perfectly well. And then it was actually just as I started streaming, I kind of shared this thing that I'd built, and I think it was Mr. Anhorn. He's like, "Do you know about this library?" And he pointed to me and went, "Oh." So on Monday morning when I went back into work, I was quick to let my team know that this product actually existed. I hadn't actually invented it. That it, like coming back on the IP and the copyright the patent stuff. Like I just designed this software. I didn't think about it. I wasn't trying to steal anything, but I'd actually inadvertently just basically, even the API was almost identical that I created without ever seeing this other software. But I was quick to make sure that people understood there was another library out there and we could possibly switch out mine, and it would actually be a pretty quick swap. It's only because I'd built mine to support transactions that that saved mine in the end. But you know, I would
At
not.
least you
I wouldn't
were.
put that on my resume. Go ahead, sorry.
At least you had the what do you want to say, the humility to admit, like, potentially that there might be a better option out there, that we didn't have to maintain different benefits, etc. I've certainly ran into situations where, long story short, basically somebody kind of invented what a cloud service would do effectively as far as orchestrating like impromptu tasks and jobs. You can kind of see where this is going, and he essentially, or they essentially, were thinking, well, theirs is better. Didn't have half the features or near the capabilities because the community is a lot smaller, it's internal, et cetera, et
Like me
cetera.
and my components.
Yeah, it's hard to have the hubris to realize sometimes that, you know what, somebody with more, and not just somebody, like a company with more time, money, and resources is able to do it better, and it's okay. Like, we can take advantage of that and benefit from that.
I've seen a lot of, you know, is it ain't invented here sort of stuff throughout my career. I've seen a lot of people building software for the sake of building software, taking other ideas and building on top of it. One of them created FQL, and the F was effed up. Query language, because it looked like SQL, but they parsed it out differently so they could build on top of SQL, right? So
Pretty much links so that you
created,
can say you tell me what table first, and then you can tell me what objects you want from that table.
yeah. So they built this weird queries. It was like SQL. It read like SQL for the most part, but then had weird bits in it. And because they decided that their ORM was going to be better, and they built on top of that. It does raise, when we're talking about companies, if you're working
Yes.
for a company, you surrender the rights to anything you build for them.
Typically,
right?
Yeah.
But that does mean, like, if I'm working on open source software, if I'm working on Liquid Sky, right now I have the benefit of having my work environment and my personal environment being completely separate platforms, right? So I'm not likely to bring any of the Liquid Sky code into my employer. But if I work on a similar concept, do they own Liquid Sky? Right? If I do a distributed system in the same way, do they own what I did? Right. That does blur the lines. And when it comes to companies, if you put an idea out there and someone else takes it and runs with it and claims it as their own, you're just generally screwed, right? It's annoying, it's dishonest, because in a business environment that can push you forward, that can raise you up, right? And I think it's always good to recognize, but it's for what we do, we should be recognizing achievements, and we should be recognizing contributions internally in teams, etc., making sure people are called out. I dislike writing emails. But
can I opt out?
Individual contributions should be noted, but team effort matters more than individual in a business.
But still, like, even among a team, I would just like to, like, the things that I would prefer to be known for on a team are integrity and completing the things that I say I'm going to complete. I do them to the best of my ability, and I do, as you mentioned, I do take some amount of pride and joy out of seeing people use it in a successful way and say nice things about the feature or the product itself. But to be called out individually and praised for it is really difficult for me. I don't like that part.
I get that
at all.
But it depends. I mean, but you're not trying to climb a corporate ladder. You're not trying to progress in that way, are you?
Correct.
For me, you know, I'm trying to support my family. I'm trying to progress my career. I'm trying to also, for me, my motivation is I want to help developers. I want to make sure developers are productive and whatnot. And the only way I'm going to do that is by climbing up.
Oh,
because then I'm in a position.
I have a different view on that.
Yeah, but I can't do that at a low level because I don't have control. If I gain some control over what we do and how we do it,
Right.
then I can help. I can take on ideas, and I can maybe give them the ability to develop better software all around. So that's the approach I take. But if I'm starting at the bottom, the only way I do that is by making sure my individual contributions are noticed high up enough that my name is mentioned when it's time for that. Oh well, we could promote this person, or we can move this person up. Yeah. So you have to play that, to come back on that turn of phrase. You have to play the game a little bit, right?
Exactly, which is something that I just rail against, and it's something that I do. I know that it's a facet of me that's like, I don't want to give in to this societal construct that says in order to be successful at life, you have to play this game where it means competing against other people for this one prestigious slot that does pay more, helps you live more comfortably and everything. But I'm seeing things working differently, and I know it's not going to be the same for everyone across the board, but I could see environments in which people are able to be successful without needing to play the game. Instead, maybe make a different game where it's like, in order to get the higher management positions, or to get the more influence over the direction of things, you must first mentor, or you must first praise other people for the work that they do, or help someone build something, and maybe you do 90% of the work and they do 10, but you let it be theirs, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to talk over Mojo, Sean. I don't want to monopolize here. I think that ideal environment for me.
Idealistic, yes.
The developers in an organization are respected for their professional abilities. Management looks to those developers as the experts they hired and allows contribution. I think personally that developers should be involved in a lot of conversations to gain that domain experience, to gain understanding of what the business is trying to do, and the developers should be able to go off and manage themselves. It's kind of what I want to do with Liquid Sky. I want to separate the planning from the management, from the software development and the management even, right? I don't want any of the planning stuff to blur the lines between what is being done and what should be done. And I think developers should be respected more. So in my world, everyone's a developer or in the development team. Everyone's a developer. They contribute to the greater good of the product that they're building, and they should all feel a level of engagement, and they should all be raised up. I also think mentoring is a key thing that we often forget. Shared responsibility is a key thing we often forget. We silo people too quickly. So yeah, I think ideal world, I don't need to climb a ladder because I am respected as a professional and I'm able to get on with my job and do it without the interference of everything else. But unfortunately, that's not the way that works, right? So
seems to be that way, yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue perpetuating because we all do use phrases like that. It's like, this is how it works. So if I am going to not burn or get buried, then I will play the game. Yes.
I don't like them and us. I don't like
Right.
cover your ass
Especially
sort
don't
of
like that.
practices. I would prefer that everybody on a team includes the PMs, the management. They are a team. They should treat each other like a team, because and when I started Liquid Sky, I started with the concept of passing the ball. Right, the ball is with someone to do at any one point. And I actually had a load of notes written down, and I actually started with an analogy of developing software. The goal is literally the goal, right? It's the net at the end of the field, and the aim is to get that ball in the back of that net, right? You don't do that by running down the field, or you don't do it very often by running down the field and just planting it in the back of the net yourself. You have to pass it to everybody else. They all have to be able to contribute. They all have to be aware of things, and they all have to play the game to be able to get the ball in the back of the net. And those are my first notes on Liquid Sky. That's what I wanted to do, because I don't think any organization that has, well, they didn't do this or they didn't do that, is healthy.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the analogy of, let's say, football, and I mean it the way you mean it.
Yes. I mean the little round ball that rolls on the foot.
With that analogy, there's still going to be the opposing team, though. And most of the time, we do treat the opposing team as a customer or a product owner, as opposed to the idea of pitfalls and failures along the way. So instead of the opposing team being an idea, it is a they still.
True. But I do see them in that way. You are right, and I'm not seeing them. The customer is the teammate stood next to you. If in an ideal world, right? It's
sometimes they're the coaches, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah. That's a dangerous thing. The customer should not dictate the direction of the software necessarily. But I think the opposing team is the missed requirements. It's the missed deadlines. It's the missed opportunities to take on proper unit testing, to implement proper procedures to move forward. Those are the restrictions that you need to get around, and not rush past.
Oh, I like that. Right. Man, I want to build on that one, because that also brings to mind things like each individual's this is the right way to do things. That's definitely an opponent to the team. Yeah. So lack of communication. Man, I really like that. Let's keep that. Let's teach that when it comes to building teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Let's backtrack just a little. So IPs, they make sense in competitive environments. I think we're coming down to that. But as individuals, I'm going back to the personalization of needing the credit for a completed thing, whatever it is. I mean, it's across the board, but specifically in software, needing credit for developing this really cool system, maybe a pattern that everyone uses now, but nobody credits you for being the person to originate that idea. What is it about that I'm kind of answering the question myself, because you have already stated stuff like in the competitive world, needing to get a job, needing to have reputation, but there's something deeper to it that's also kind of surface level, I think. And again, I'm looking for anyone to refute that and to be like, nope, that's it. That's all there is to it. But needing to have the recognition for completing a thing. I just want to know what that is, because there's something more than just getting a job.
I remember the first time I developed some software that I could show off to someone, and it was a piece of software, probably VB4 probably. And I showed it off to I was like probably a program for just taking notes or something, probably something simple. I was probably like 15, 16 when I showed off an actual application. And I showed it to my mom, who had no clue about computers, didn't have.
But you're excited about it. She was the closest thing.
Look, because I wanted to show it off. I'd done this thing. I'd worked hard on this thing. I wanted that recognition. I was chasing the recognition. I know I was, and I got a pat on the head basically, because she had no idea what I'd done. Right. She didn't understand what I'd achieved. I think we put so much hard work into software behind the scenes. That you do want. I mean, I probably still want that pat on the head. If I'm being honest, I still want that's awesome. You did that was great. You did well.
Of course. I mean, we're all, I think, pretty recognition achievement driven. Well, maybe that's a too global of a statement.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read
Have you
the
ever seen
book.
a nine?
There's a book by, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I'm looking it up right now. The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of basically, it's relationship oriented, but still, it helps you identify like what is it that makes you tick at the end of the day, effectively. Are you somebody that through acts of service shows others that you appreciate them? Or are you somebody that, basically is being told that you did a great job? Is that your love languages? I forget what they all are, but I think people do fall into variations of the bucket. I don't think books like this, where everybody's categorized and you must fit in this perfect little thing, is necessarily the case. There's probably some overlap here, but I do think there are definitely some what do I want to say? Words of wisdom with having an idea if maybe one of those buckets fits your personality profile.
And you know me, I'm all about that. And look, Mojo's like, here they are. There you go. And I am kind of getting at that, and I'm not I am intentionally kind of driving it to that, but there's still like, I really, really do want to get to the root of the human trait that we see, that is the ways that we experience the reward of doing a thing. So as developers, and I want to keep it on the developer topic because otherwise we're just talking about humans in general. As developers, we do something that feels like it's a lot of work or that is an achievement of some sort, and we want a pat on the head because that is the way that we feel validated or valuated. We want someone else to praise. Yes, and praise kinks are okay. We don't shame. This is true. We want praise, or we want the prestige, or we want to be known for doing this thing. Like my main thing is just known for getting the thing done, and that's it. Not necessarily the actual product itself, but I do hope that the products that I make are highest quality. But that's for me. It's all internal. So the whole need for external validation, I think, is the point. I think is what everything boils down to. So let's start there. Do any of you actually agree with that statement? That the whole point that we want our name on a thing is for, in its core, in its essence, validation?
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, I'd say yeah. Whether it's like directly on it, in the napalm sense, with like an SDK, or just the recognition of which, through other people. I'd say, well, I mean, you're talking to somebody who doesn't get it at work, so it would be nice.
What I would say, like, so I said earlier on, Mojo's going to help me a little bit with Liquid Skyway stuff, right? I'm going to join on that. That's something that, that contribution should be recognized, right? I feel that should, as another person, to say that Liquid Sky is all mine at that point would be incorrect.
I mean, especially if it's Aspire driven. But
yeah, I'd have to go to Microsoft to say Mojo shilled really hard to get Aspire on this.
I'm going to have my name on a footnote for being a shill one of these days. I'll be a footnote.
I just want to be a shill. Like, I mean, I promote all these things, like getting paid for it. Heck yeah.
It's okay. TBD. I understand your points, and you want to understand it better, and also figure out how you would use it. However, one of the things they said on in one of the podcasts that I guess made sense, because at some level we were willing to accept some level of of abstraction from the real thing. Like we're not looking at the ones and zeros that are happening. But they quoted Arthur C. Clarke on it, and he has some quote where it's like any sufficient technology advanced enough is indistinguishable from magic.
I
Now,
do love that quote.
is Aspire magic? Maybe not. Does it make the process you're currently struggling with on stream, with like Kubernetes and all this other stuff, a little bit easier? I'd say yes. However, you didn't start in Aspire, so like getting to that point may be equally as hard.
Response?
Well, John, I mean, we could go down the Aspire rabbit hole for a long time.
Yeah,
and that's fine. I mean, if the conversation is shifting to that, then that's fine.
But it's actually sorry, it got me thinking about accreditation and actually got to Aspire because Aspire, I associate David Fowler first with it. Right? The certain products within Microsoft you associate with the person.
Yeah, like Blazor Dan.
Yeah, they don't get accreditation.
Steve.
They're just the ones talking the most about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like David Fowler did not build Aspire alone,
Right.
but is the name associated with it. And over the years, things like Singlar, right, name associated. But yeah, on Aspire, yeah, I get it. I get what it does. I get why it's helpful. Would it help with the Kubernetes struggle? I don't know. Can it do that without having some like from a development perspective?
So
well, can it?
I
So
I know
with that,
Kubernetes a little bit. Like I'm not going to claim to be an expert or anything, but I've experimented. I had a home cluster on a Pi, etc. And getting up to speed on being able to write YAML manifests for Kubernetes is a full-time job, just because of all the different intricacies and little hiccups and tricks of all the different resource types and service definitions that are available, right?
Yep.
I didn't have to do any of that with Aspire to be able to start writing an application that works in a distributed container orchestrator type environment. Like just being able to kind of declaratively use extension methods the way that we're used to using them for things like dependency injection in the .NET world is just so nice from the perspective of not having to learn Docker Compose YAML, Kubernetes YAML, etc. Do you have to learn this at some point? Maybe. Depends on your job, I would argue. If you're deploying the software you're writing, absolutely, you're going to have to get there, but there are tools that are going to help get there. I think you should understand what those tools are doing at the end of the day, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, did the stream actually go down, or is it?
No.
Oh,
No,
it's still here. So apparently it's happening to Andreas too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. That's fine.
Not to gaslight you or anything.
No, you're good. I'll work on that, but you guys can. Well, can everyone still hear?
No, it's starting to move again.
Yeah, it's 1 frame every 10 seconds.
It's starting to.
Oh no, you look good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his audio is still working, I guess. Because that's all that really matters. Nobody needs to see me reacting.
Well, our names are in the top left. Those need to be there.
Yeah, I need to see my little icon blinking when I speak nonsense.
Okay, keep your conversation going, but I do want to just say that the situation that I came across was being asked about the situation that I was asking you about, each of you about, which is you had something out there. Maybe, I guess in this specific scenario, let's say it was me. I gave work that I did to someone else who was in this field. They put that work out. So this is kind of like, was it Napalm Story? They put it out as their own work. Their company is now gaining the fame and reputation for coming up with that idea or difference in an idea. And I was asked how I feel about that, because I am almost always saying something along the lines of, I don't need to be recognized for anything that I put out there. Just use it. I want to know that if you use it, it's not causing you more trouble than it's helping. And that's enough for me. But how would I feel if someone took, let's say, the financial management tracker application actually has all of the things that a financial management system should have, and I did all of the work for it. Someone took it, put their name on it, and sold it as a product. I said that I would be annoyed and frustrated by it, but not because someone else is taking credit for the work that I did. It's just that someone else is taking credit for work that they didn't do themselves. I couldn't care less that it was me that did the work. I'd feel the same if it was Liquid Sky. I'd feel the same as if it was this SDK thing that you worked on, Napalms. But it's just that someone else is taking credit for this thing that they didn't do. That bothers me. I don't care that it was my stuff. So I wanted to know what the deal was there.
I think the most famous example is probably Facebook, right? Of this happening, where someone's taken credit, for and gone to court for many years. I mean, you're talking about billions of dollars. If someone took your financial management application and became a multi-billionaire off the back of it, that'd be a little bit more. I got to imagine that'd be a little bit more than irking.
I mean, I honestly, I can't say for sure because it's not happening, but honestly, I do think that I would feel the same. I would be frustrated that someone else is making loads of money off of this system, but not because it was a system that I created. It's just a system that they didn't create that they're taking credit for. It's not a personal offense to me in that regard. Because, again, optimistic, altruistic, whatever the words are, I'm thinking that, as it has been with all of the things I've encountered so far, I am really, really happy to see something that I made being used. And that's the extent of what I need for validation.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what the use is, right? Like, I'm okay.
I mean, used for what I intended it to be used for.
Well, that's just it, though, right? Like, you don't have control over that intent. So I have problems with saying, like, okay, I'm happy to see a library that I know I'm really not going to make much of anything off of. Maybe it's a utility, whatever, that people are using that and enjoying it. Absolutely great. But if I build, I don't know, some ridiculous system that has some particularly appealing aspect that a company takes it, forks it, does whatever they want with it, and is making a ton of money off of it, that's a bit of a problem without some kind of attribution, in my opinion. I mean, look what happened with Redis, right? So, or was it Redis or was it Elastic? I'm thinking Elastic. So AWS basically made a product from Elastic and took their code and did whatever the heck they want with it, but they never contribute back either. And they didn't acknowledge that, hey, there was all this hard work that went into building Elasticsearch, and they're making ridiculous sums of money now offering a hosted Elasticsearch service. That's problematic.
I think that comes. I think I mentioned it earlier regarding we kind of have a moral obligation. If we're going to take some software and we have ideas on how it should be done, or we want to contribute, then maybe we do have a kind of moral obligation. Some people's moral compasses are a little better than others, right? And I think we pretty much established at this point, Amazon is not the most
oh, sure. But even taking that out of like kind of where I was driving towards, like, okay, I don't know, a nonprofit uses my system to do some kind of good in the world. Okay, I'm probably all right with that. But I'm probably not okay with it if, I don't know, big defense contractor builds a missile targeting system to take out civilians with. That's not cool.
Yeah, and there's always like, even my scenarios were contrived, but like the one that I brought up was genuine. Like the ones that you guys brought up, they were definitely genuine situations that have occurred. So when we're thinking about it, again, I'm trying to go back to the individual, and why does the individual care so much about getting credit for the work done. And there are plenty of reasons, but my question challenge is it really something that important that we need to put that much importance on getting credit for work done? And that was like one of the first things that TBD was opening up with, is like, where does this really matter? And so you guys did come up with really good examples of, here are some systems that could be used in ways that you don't intend for it to be used, but that's going to happen regardless of whether or not you get credit for the original idea. In fact, you probably wouldn't have wanted to have credit for the original idea.
So, it's kind of tangential, but it kind of comes back around the idea thing.
Please feel free.
So yesterday I read an article, and it's actually by a former boss of mine, posted on LinkedIn, and wrote this article, basically 2 lessons I've learned from 20 years working in the software field. Right. Lesson 1: customers don't care about the back end. They don't care about all the workings underneath. They care about the nice shiny front end piece. So that's all they give a crap about. All the stuff in the background doesn't matter. But they don't care if you're using microservices, monoliths, whatever. They don't really care. So get your UI up front, right? And the second one was kind of contradictory, because it was the second item. I want to mention it for the purpose of filling out the 2 items, but the second one was figure out your domain. Basically, figure out all the ideas, figure out all the events and things like that. Don't leave that till later on. Right? I'm like, well, but you just said the backend don't matter in point 1, and then the second one you said that the backend matters greatly. So, but it is more that the UI piece that I was talking about. Like, customers don't care. And I think as developers, we put that hard work. We want recognition. I want recognition for my hard work if it's been solo. If it's part of a team, I want the team to be recognized as being the hardworking team they are, to the contribution it's offered as the company. I don't want a team's contribute, because it can change morale. It can drastically change morale. If a product is failing, teams feel that personally, because they've put the work in. People don't understand all the things on the outside. They don't understand all the, it's the duck analogy, right? The duck looks nice and calm on top, and it's paddling like heck underneath. Far too much software is built in that way, I think. But we care. We are prideful human beings, and I think, especially in software, so much of what we do is not seen. It's nice to get recognition for the things you've done. It's
like
nice
when
to
you
understand.
say that, I get so excited about that phrase. It's like probably the same ego boost that other people get when they implement this amazing system and they get recognized for it. You say, most of the work that we do isn't even noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that sounds awesome. That's why I do software dev.
I mean, ideally, in software development, it's just a tool. To the end user, it's just a tool. They should never see any of the problems, right? That's the ideal software development. This just works. It does its job. It's great. I can't remember where I first heard it, but like, if you're using a hammer, you don't understand what went into making the hammer. You just know that it'll bang a nail in, right? A good hammer will hit that nail really well, and you won't appreciate the craftsmanship that went into making the hammer. So is there a difference between a $10 hammer and a $200 hammer, right? So like, a good tool, you don't realize that you're using a good tool. A bad tool, you realize you're using a bad tool.
When it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
And from a morale perspective, from having led teams, from having worked with teams, software that's under spec, software that is poorly produced because it's rushed, software that retains a high rate of failure and a high number of customer complaints destroys morale, and it's a cycle that companies can't break out of. So when things are working well, when things are done well, recognition at the team level certainly raises everybody else up, and I think that's always worth doing. So yes, from that perspective, I want attribution or recognition in the larger company, even just from a morale perspective.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working alone, right? So everything I do will be my personal success or failure. I have no team, but I can also help the teams that I do work for to be better and to help their jobs, and then they can get recognition. So in that respect, my satisfaction will be seeing their recognition, and that's what I'll get my dopamine hit from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we do have chemical like
Physiological
triggers, right?
responses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
physiological responses. That's what I mean. Yeah. But it is a chemical, right? It's a chemical underneath, right? But
Yeah.
but we have those physiological responses that do benefit us, that do make us feel good, right? There's things we can do, like working out is a good thing to do, to just in general. It can raise your mental health as well as everything else.
Mhm.
So I think that's a clear benefit.
I'm going to give the other two a chance to respond in case you have anything extra to say before I talk for 12 hours. Going once, going 16 times, and then some number after that. Okay, with the idea of physiological responses, one thing that I have learned about, is that they can be conditioned. So we can be conditioned to have physiological responses to praise and to all of that based off of things that have happened. I am not saying you need to actively change it, but as far as the topic of credit for work that you've done because you spent the time to do it, you invested your hard labor and all that stuff, and needing credit for that thing and getting a dopamine hit for that is something that could be changed into the thing that I think I experienced. But again, I could just be completely blind to the way that I'm really responding to situations that happen where someone else is getting credit for my work. But it seems like I've taught myself or learned over time that it is so much better to see something that you've worked on be used, be successful for what it is without having any light shown on you. Yeah. That's it about the physiological aspect to it. Thoughts? Comments? I have streamer curse. Used to talking away. That's completely okay. I encourage it.
Yeah, you get used to talking on stream so much, and a lot of time to yourself as well, so you end up chatting away.
I mean, a lot of it isn't my words, so I just read off people's chats. So coming up with my own words and thoughts, it's hard for me, for one. I have this cognitive function called introverted feeling, and that means that my ideas matter to me, my thoughts and my values, they matter to me, and no one else should be forced to conform to them. And so when I share my thoughts and ideas, it's kind of like I'm saying, you need to be this way because I think that this is the right way to live. And then the second thing is, if someone challenges that, if someone says, well, this is not quite right, that's not how the world works, that's not how you should respond to this situation, and questions me, then I'm like, ooh, I feel physical blows. So it's a very vulnerable thing to do. And that's why I want to talk about this specific idea where I have a strong feeling and I want to change the way that other people feel about it without being forceful about it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is my challenge to everyone that's listening still is to try seeing what it feels like to spend a lot of time working on something, to just give it away, put it out there without anyone knowing that it was you putting it out there, and seeing where that goes, seeing what that does to you. Can you find joy in it?
I think you have to disconnect all personal attachment to it. Like
I don't want to do that though.
Well, Liquid Sky has goodness knows how many hours of development, right? Let's say it's 10 months and I've spent a minimum of 10 hours a week. So I spent several hundred hours working on it, right?
Mhm.
If I put it out there and I open source it, what if nobody picks it up? Is that more damaging to me
Right.
than if
I hear that for sure.
many people pick it up? Right? So I have to so to say that I don't care if someone takes it and runs with it, I also have to be willing to accept that nobody gives a crap about it, right? And just like
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Again, shining a light on myself. Am I
Yeah.
actually dissociating from it? Because that is my viewpoint.
Mhm.
It's, I made this thing because I wanted to use it, or it's useful to me, but I want other people to use it too because it works really well and it'd be nice to see them. But if no one uses it, that's fine too.
So I've asked myself a question about that with Water Drink Water. Right. I created that as a project that if people want to contribute to, they can do. And the idea is that it's a base project that I started that we can go through processes. If someone wants to do that, they can do that, and no one wants to, right? That's a general consensus. Nobody wants to contribute, so I'm fine
I mean,
with that.
I want to, it's just time.
Well, yeah, exactly. But so okay, maybe it's not no one wants to, but no one has shown any ability to contribute any
Right.
significant amount of energy to that, because it's my thing, right? So do I care if someone takes Water Drink Water, and I've promoted that, by the way? I've said, yeah, you can take Water Drink Water, then I'm happy with that, because that could help somebody else, right? Water Drink Water is in no way, shape, or form production ready, right? That's deliberate. It's deliberately thrown together to have the conversations about good structuring, good practices, etc. It's built to be that
I
tool.
love about your streams, by the way.
If someone takes that, I don't care, in so much as they can take it and run with it. They could build a product out of it. If they want to build a product off Water Drink Water, that's awesome. Because
Samsung
they'll have to have learned some things.
It's called Samsung Health.
Yeah. But if they take it, they're going to have to learn some lessons to be able to get it into a position, right? They can't just take my work and pass it off, because it's not ready, right?
Right.
And if they do, they're going to get they're going to get the challenges they deserve, right? If you try and pass Water Drink Water off as a platform and go off and sell it, you're going to get all the challenges that come with learning what real software development is. So, but if I took Liquid Sky and I open sourced it, I would have to detach every personal feeling from it. And I think I can't do that, because I have so much of me invested in Liquid Sky. I've got so much of my professional development invested in Liquid Sky.
Right. And that's definitely what I'm talking about there. It's like,
and
you are the software. You're identifying as being the software.
Yeah.
It's vital.
Yeah. So I don't know how to say I care that someone would pass it off. And I couldn't detach. It would be extremely frustrating, and it would just more someone had stolen me. They've stolen months and months worth of my personal engagement, my personal energy. That would feel like a violation to have that taken. If I'd slapped it together, like, because I was prompted to do this, and I've had several people since say I shouldn't do what I'm doing. I should focus on just getting the product out. If I cared about it becoming a product more than I cared about building something that I take pride in, then I would have rushed it through. I could have done it, right? I could have done it months ago. Right? We could have happily had most of the functionality there months ago, but I take my time, I refactor where I need to, and I try and put a little bit of pride in. And actually, it's funny because Mojo just posted in my Discord, because I didn't know about Atlassian's Atlas platform, but it's review date.
Right.
They've introduced review date. I'm like, okay, I might as well just give up now and quit. Right?
But no, that's not your motivation for making it, though.
I've always said, if someone comes along and they release the concept of a review date into there and it helps everybody else do that, then that's great. Like, I don't mind if someone has the uses the idea or has the idea anyway, because that's good for everybody, right?
Yeah, it's so similar to the way that I feel about it. It's just different enough that, yeah, it's interesting to hear someone else sharing these ideas.
Yeah. So the concept of Liquid Sky, the things that I've focused on, I think I haven't seen. I am not trying to rip off anybody else, but I think they benefit us all. So if someone has developed the same concepts and has developed a platform that does it for everybody, then awesome. We all benefit because we've actually got those tools in place now, and we all understand them better because of Liquid Sky, right? Because we've asked ourselves, what do we like about it? And I'm using we in general there, but there's been a lot of discussion around it, right? So to me, Liquid Sky is more about my professional development than it is necessarily making me millions, right? I don't care about necessarily making money off it. I care about developing a product that I'm proud of.
2 topics.
Yeah. I mean, I would bet there's a ton of programmers out there, and I'm avoiding the word all, but there's a ton of programmers out there that want to build something that will make them money.
Oh man, I'm always doing this to people.
Vast
I make
majority.
You feel bad about saying things like all and everyone. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, but I'm not going to generalize. It's a fair thing to not lump everyone under the same thing. Some people are more altruistic than others. I get that. But again, I think we've all wanted to develop. I just went straight into the all, but I don't know of any developers. I've not met many developers that haven't wanted to build something and make a product.
We're a monolith. It's okay.
But I have met a lot of people that wanted to make a product. You know, you just watch enough streams, watch all the game developers. They want to make something that'll make them money. They're not making games. Very few of them are making games just because it's fun. Most of them are trying to build a game that's a product.
Mm-hmm. Right. And they do want to get paid for it eventually.
Yeah, they want to make that thing that people want to play. So
during that, and again, I'm going to use this comically, so please don't take offense. And if you do, then use your safe word. In that X-Pause, you mentioned 2 things that I really, really hoped would come up. This I think is the first time, at least it was the first time that I noticed, talking about ripping other people off. So most of the conversation was geared around, how do I feel? How does the individual feel about not getting credited? And you did mention close to the beginning about accreditation being important. But the point behind it is you have that moral compass that you were talking about earlier of not trying to rip other people off by stealing their idea and marketing it as your own. But what if in our competitive environment, you see someone else's idea that you didn't think of, but you're like, I could do that better? Is that the same thing as ripping off someone else's idea and passing it off as your own? Let's take a concrete example. Augmented reality. I hate the direction it's going. I don't like the devices, and I don't like the 3D spatial environments, the way that they're going. So let's say that I came up with this metaverse idea and called it something else, but it's still based in my knowledge of how the metaverse should work, according to everyone. That is taking someone else's idea and marketing it because I think I could do it better. I mean, I don't have the skill to, so I won't do that. But let's say that I did.
I mean, software is full of examples of people doing that, right? Taking ideas and building on them, and it's why frameworks exist, right?
Yes.
Oh, I like the idea, However, I'm going to do it differently. You're still building the thing. It might be that you're understand. And again, why a lot of the technology I'm using in Liquid Sky is basically for validation of things that I think I understand. I want to build my thing and see if they work. And so far, there's a lot of things I've learned from it, which is great. But so sometimes you go off and build something, and you understand the thing you were looking at better now, right? Maybe you hit some of the challenges they faced along their development path. Maybe you understand. Maybe your idea is better. If we all just said, okay, there's the one idea and that's it, then innovation doesn't happen. Because I think it takes people to say, hold on, I like that idea, but what if? And they take it and they build their own. That's not ripping somebody off necessarily. And that's why software patents are dangerous as a concept, because if someone can patent an idea, we're in trouble because everything is so broad. It's really hard to narrow down what is violation. But because if you look like Trello, I mean, Atlassian bought Trello, but Trello was a product. Atlassian had a product. They saw Trello. They thought, oh, it's like Jira Lite. We'll buy the product. We'll buy that company, because this team thought, I can do it better, or I can do it this way. JavaScript frameworks are full of it, and we keep rolling around and we're going to design this, we're going to design that. Yeah,
Right.
everything's full of it. And I think standing on the shoulders of giants is something I always think about. Like, just because someone did something doesn't mean I can't do something similar or better.
Yeah, or better. Especially better. Like, yeah. I mean, look at all of these component libraries. This should have been my example instead of this AR thing, but I love AR and I wanted to talk about it today. I do have my own Blazor component library that I made for my purposes, because I thought it was a lot easier to maintain. None of these have the customizability that my library has. So let's say that I have that. Well, I mean, I do have it on GitHub. Let's say that I fleshed this thing out.
Right.
And then I actually marketed it as it would still be a freemium at the most, but for the most part, they would all be free components and donate as you like. But let's say that I got to the point where I sold this as an Automated Realms branded product for Blazor components, fully customizable, easy to integrate, super simple to use.
Yeah.
Using inspiration from Radzin, from Bootstrap, from Syncfusion, Telerik, Mudblazor, AntBlazor, all of them. Ow. My desk is there. Am I being a bad person? Or does it just come down to, well, I gave them credit as my inspirations, so it's not a bad thing? Again, this is all introspection. I'm trying to ask myself, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to building libraries like this, right? If there's other options out there, if you're building this, if you're using this as part of a company, there's a different question to ask, which is, will you find other developers that are comfortable working in the framework? Is it compatible? All those sorts of things. But as a library as itself, if you want to build a company around, if you want to build a product around it, it's that there's things you do that they don't. There's API. You feel there's weaknesses in their APIs, weaknesses in their approaches, or just because I think you've got to ask yourself when you're doing this sort of stuff: is this a case of I think it's ain't invented here, right? It's a common problem, like I mentioned earlier on the FQL stuff, right? They wanted to be able to write their own library to do SQL.
Right.
SQL's existed for a long time. Why are you building that? You've got to ask yourself: are you doing it because you can, and you don't like the idea of paying, or don't like the idea of being beholden to somebody else's software? You're doing it because it's an exercise. Are you doing it because you just feel you can do better and improve upon it? And I think, different things drive the reason. If you're doing it like you've done it as a spare time project, right? I don't think this was
This was part of our product.
Okay.
This was out of
Oh,
need, essentially.
Need because the libraries didn't exist at that point, or they weren't mature enough.
Yes, to both. I guess I did create this, like the initial one you can see was 4 years ago, which would have been 2020, which is only 2 years after. Oh, but the actual time that I started working on it was probably 2019.
Right.
Before
So things like
I open sourced it.
Yeah, so things like Radzen controls were very not
Yeah,
mature
yeah.
at that point. There wasn't a lot of Blazor libraries. Sync Fusion hadn't come out with their full Blazor support
And then
yet.
Sync Fusion did cost money, and that was a constraint for using it in the work product.
Yeah. So I always when it's done for a work thing, you have to balance way more things. I think if you're doing it for a personal reason, if you like again, me building
Which it
software,
also was like trying to learn how to make components.
Yeah, I'll actually come back on a completely different
Okay.
thing that I do from time to time. My game library stuff, right? There are platforms that track games, right? I have a large collection of
That
video
track
games, and I want to track them.
games?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
track.
you,
Okay. Yes,
yeah,
yes. Gotcha.
yeah. So
Like inventory management almost.
yeah, inventory management. Yeah. Why don't I use one of them? Right? Why do I build my own? Why do I track all my own information? Why do I pull other APIs and stuff to build my own? Because I can.
Mhm.
Because I have more control over it. I have more control of the output.
I like
have
that
more
answer.
control of
I
everything.
mean, that's usually my answer.
And I actually use that. I use the concept now as a getting started in different languages and frameworks. I don't actually have a current up-to-date version. I kind of tinker with, I've been playing with GraphQL. I'll play with putting a GraphQL API in front of it. Oh, I've been playing with this. I'll try and do this. I'll play with Blazor, which is actually the current version is because I was playing with Blazor. It's many years old now, but I build those things because I think that I can do things that give me abilities that the current libraries out there don't, or they cost money, and I have
Right.
there's no value proposition in me paying for a monthly license on a piece of software
Right.
that I log into, once or twice a month when I've got a new game or a new to me game, and I add it to the collection. So yeah,
that does bring up. Let's say that inventory management system is one that you just liked to do because you had control over it, it met your needs and stuff, and you got to a point where it's like, man, this is actually pretty robust. Maybe other people could use this, so you put it out there for free.
Yep.
Do you still care about getting credit for creating that? One, that's first question.
No, because again, I would be investing time, but I think if anyone could use that and run with it, and again, you'd have to build on it, right? If I'd release it, if I'd open sourced it as a full product, and just said, yeah, run at it, then yeah, I'd be able to let that one go.
Right. Then why is that different? Is the second question. Than Liquid Sky, for example.
I suppose the originality. Like, to me, the things I'm doing in Liquid Sky have my personal investment. I've thought about challenges. I've tried to invest that energy into building something that is, I hope, has a unique aspect to it. Right now, did I do some research? Yes. Did I see anything that existed that was doing something similar to what I'm planning? No, I didn't. Do they exist now? Well, clearly they do, because Atlas exists as a product, which is a similar concept to the review date, without a doubt.
Right.
The only difference again is my stuff is going to not blur the lines, but so I have a lot more individuality, I suppose, in Liquid Sky. With something like a games library, it's a common problem, right? It's one of those. Sorry, I'm gonna make sure I don't keep up my work computer. It's one of those. I'm working on borrowed time.
It's all right. I'll only borrow 3 more minutes.
Yeah, the inventory management system, that's a common thing. It's a thing that a lot of people pick up as a first programming project, right? If I can put that out there and someone can use it, and I will say that Stoic, what's his channel name? Because I'd like to give him a shout out in some way, shape, or form. Stoic Light. He's actually building. He's building. LIGHT, yeah. STOIC. STOIC.
I know how to spell stoic.
That's who I am. He's building a game tracking app. That's how I found him. He's building it in PHP, and he's got some friends that are contributing stuff to him. Mine and his game library stuff works slightly differently. He's tracking completion, right? I'm like, that's a good idea. I should track completion because then I could actually invest more in that time. So I'm totally going to rip off his idea. But maybe it's not his idea. Maybe it's someone else's idea.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we didn't even get into that, which is the whole point of originality is there is no
I have a
original
hot take.
anymore.
I don't think there is an original idea.
Yeah, that's not a hot take. That's quite accepted on this channel, at least.
Good.
There's
I have a cold
evolution.
take. Well, like, I mean, if you look like historically with like, you know, just like math and stuff, you know, trying to say it with the S for whatever reason.
Maths. Because all of the sciences have S's at the end when you're talking.
Like you'll see around the same time in different places, you know, different areas of the world that like they're coming up with the same concepts. And this was before the internet.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just who gets the market faster if you want to be in the competitive money making.
There's that competitive thing again.
Meanwhile, I don't. You know, I have opinions that I can't separate. So,
but like, no, I mean, you brought it up, so it's a really good point. Even then, let's say that there was nothing to do with money. It was only renowned that you were the philosopher that came up with this idea, or you were the person that discovered constellations or stars or whatever that don't bring you any monetary value other than, hey, aren't you the person that came up with the Pythagorean theorem?
Except he didn't. That's the fun part.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Mistakenly credited, yeah. That's hilarious.
But that's what I mean. So aren't you the guy that came up with the Pythagorean theorem? The actual person that did is like, yeah, that was me.
I mean, I would say if someone took Liquid Sky and made a platform and made a product, they'd have had to put all the hard work into making it a product, right? Because it's not a product as yet, right? So if they took it and made it a product, could I be angry? Yes, because I put a lot of the hard work into it and a lot of personal investment, and they wouldn't have that same investment, right? And it's why I could go and try chasing people to invest in it, right? And try and get some money if I wanted to make it an actual product. I could start that path, but I care more about the actual product than I do making the money off the product. So that's probably the differentiator. Like,
we need a coalition for TBD.
You need a what?
To lead all developers.
But I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to foster, is like a mindset among developers that any software you create, regardless of whether you put months or years of blood, sweat, and tears into it, is something that could potentially be helpful to someone else. So why not share it with someone else? The part 4 that we didn't get to, which we're going to need to wrap up, was about the whole we need money to live. And one way that you can make money is by holding on to an idea and putting it out there as your idea. Yeah. But like,
we need a podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
We've turned this into essentially what is a podcast, right?
Yeah. Mentioned
the oh man, come on, brain work.
It's because I'm rushing you, that's what.
I had a thought. Oh,
you got this.
I think that, in honesty, from a monetary standpoint, I care about if I develop something that is a product. If someone gets rich off my ideas and my hard work, I'm going to care, because I could make my family's life better for that, right? Because that's what they've taken from me. They've taken the ability to, maybe they've rushed it out there and got it out there, and they don't have the same investment, and I've lost control of my vision, which is why bringing on any sort of, you have to be willing to do that more if you are going to bring on any sort of investment or external stuff. Take care, Napalm. I care more from the coding perspective of the respect of my peers, and that's where the
Respect.
accreditation. I care that what I put out there, you respect, or Mojo respects, or anybody in this chat respects more. Like, I would like to work on more products together. I would like the collaboration thing. Above all else, I love working with other developers. I think that's where that independent recognition maybe is what I'd actually chase more of. I don't care if someone in a business actually says, "Oh, well, you did great work on that distributed system." I care more about the fact that you and I can have a conversation. You respect my opinion because of what I've done, and you've seen what I've done. I think that's where I
I
am.
definitely have that in my ego structure where I don't want to be treated as incompetent or someone that you don't respect their thoughts and opinions because I'm just like everyone else. And this is ooh, why am I admitting this out loud? I'm like everyone else where I just throw out the first answer that comes to my head without validating that it is
Yeah.
the right answer so that I can look
It is
good.
because it came from your head.
Exactly. And it's like that's something that I judge other people for, that if I have that as a motivation, then I am a bad person, and that is the worst thing that can happen to me.
I will say one thing that I've said. Mojo's been kind of talking to me about Liquid Sky. I've been kind of getting set up on that and having to reflect on what I've done so far and share that with somebody else and have them running it is quite a challenge. But it also allows me to test my own personal, like, how defensive can I be? Right? Am I being defensive of Aspire, or am I being difficult because it's like I didn't think of that, I didn't do that, right? Can I own my
Oh man,
ego enough there?
that is a TI thing right there.
So opening up to somebody else and talking and sharing somebody else, and I feel more fragile,
Right.
even though I've got
Vulnerable.
vulnerable. That's one. Even though I've got a ton of experience on my side and a ton of development experience, and I'm
I've got
not
zero.
but you do. You have plenty. You have more experience than a lot of developers at the
I'm
point
just an
you're at,
ideas
by the way.
guy.
I'm just an idea man.
You're deep in some horrible trenches, so you get a lot more. You've got like plus 5 years.
Nice.
But it's challenging to work in that environment and all of us, and to now go from a solo to a team essentially, and building that team.
Oh, I know that.
Validating your own opinions and ideas, and making sure you're not just holding on to something because you're being stubborn and self-obsessed is a good step. So anyway,
I really appreciate you saying that though. That it's a very clean summary of the underlying situation that I believe happens to a lot of us, not just you, but the whole the whole thing about that need to feel respected. Again, I think that term could be interchangeable with validated, because typically the respect makes you feel like you are competent in what you're doing. But then again, everything that I see comes from a standpoint of competency. But that's it for the stream, though. It's time for stand-up. Are you guys ready for stand-up? Did you already do your stand-up?
No. Yeah. Blockers are still, configuring computers.
No PC.
The only thing I have is the only reason I don't want credit for my ideas is because I'll never execute on them. So if somebody else does, then the world's a better place.
That is the idea man mentality.
Yeah. I mean, like, I want to. I'm just going to find another idea I want to work on instead, sooner rather than later.
Cool.
That's my stand-up.
DVD?
Okay. My stand-up. This week, I worked on getting the changes stuff solidified in Liquid Sky. That was a success, I think, towards the end of the week. Going into next week, we're working on the more on the changes, but on the kind of stability of them. And nothing blocking me at this point. Opened up.
So my stand-up is that deployed the feature earlier this week, like I've said before, but there have been no issues brought up about it. So hopefully that means that it's working well, or they just haven't done anything that causes issues to happen. Today I will be continuing finding out information on how to update a web map for ArcGIS in real time, or at least at the push of a button, as opposed to publishing the map as a file. And yeah, other than that, oh, I guess my blockers are that I have very little idea where to start. So I'm going through all ArcGIS information about publishing maps and
Oh, do you need ideas?
on where
I
to
got
start
you.
with publishing map ArcGIS. But yeah, that's it then. Any last words from either of you for the viewers, for the future people?
Nope. Have a great weekend, all. Thank you very much for the time.
Any
Appreciate it.
streams this week in TBD?
Potentially gaming stream though, on a different channel.
Ooh. Shout
Yeah.
out to
Mojo didn't realize I'd actually got this one already. TBD developer is my gaming
TBD.
stream.
That's hilarious. Oh, I love it.
Not an original idea by me, an original idea by a friend.
I still love it though.
Just for the
That's
accreditation there. Just doing that on a good note. Yeah.
What about you, Mojo? Streams this weekend, tonight, anything?
I want to. I'm bad at scheduling and time management, so I'll try for both today and this weekend. But at the very least, I'll watch TBD developers gaming channel.
Gaming stream. Awesome. Well, I'm now following. Cool. Well, then thank you again so much for joining, for contributing a lot to the conversation. I loved it. If you do have anything further to add to it that maybe we didn't get to talk about, feel free to put it in Discord, all that stuff. Bring it up on Monday, whatever.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Take care.
All right. And thank you all for tuning in. I hope it was an enjoyable one for you. I got a ton out of it. It was amazing stuff. Contributors. So credit to Napalm Codes, TVD Gamer, and Mojo Fawad, as well as to Scod, Dukasoft, Andreas Sasdev, who had a lot to say, 8 bits per play, President Not Sure, Automated Realms, Shy, and anyone else who joined and contributed to the conversation. I really, really do appreciate you helping me make this content. It will be posted to YouTube at some point in time, probably Monday if I don't do it over the weekend. But yeah, great conversation. Again, I do want to leave you with, I encourage you as an exercise to try creating something and putting your all into it, but then just letting it out there, giving it away essentially, and see how that makes you feel. See if it's a way that we might be able to increase the quality of software development in our entire industry. I know it's not profitable to do that, but I just want to know what the world would be like with that kind of thing going on. So we're going to raid out to one of my favorite game devs. I think we rated him last Friday too, or maybe it was Monday, but Simple Game Dev has been working really hard on, I was going to say his, I guess I can say it this way, his Half-Life and Portal inspired game called Artificial. You can tell us all about it. If you aren't interested in watching a game developer, definitely don't have to join us, but I do encourage it because he's really cool. His game looks amazing, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you whenever you come back by or on other people's streams. Okay, ciao for now. I'm sure there was something that I missed. I feel bad about pushing those ideas, but that's okay. You're all adults. Even those of you that are like 13. Ciao. The waving.